I think probably over 90% clinics or clinicians nationwide do not do anything product related. Kick it.
Welcome to Strata Stories. My name is Thomas Schreiber. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Strata PT. Strata PT combines your EMR and billing into one automated system to increase revenue and achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate for physical, occupational, and speech therapy clinics. Recently, Strata PT was ranked the #1 EMR and billing system in outpatient therapy and rehab from Class Research. On today's episode, Paul Singh, the CEO of Strata PT, sits down with Joseph Lowe, the founder of Pure PT Supply. The guys discuss why physical therapy clinics are missing out on massive revenue and patient engagement opportunities. They explore why niche practices benefit from more retail offerings, how PTs lose revenue from unmonetized product referrals, why legacy brands undervalue PTs despite their influence, and how on-site product access improves patient outcomes. If you'd like to learn more about Strata PT and see how our EMR and billing works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode.
I would bet, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I would bet that by and large, you and I see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff, meaning that when we think about the modern day physical therapy practice, its revenue should be some combination of services and products. And those products could certainly be like coaching or info products or whatever, but actually they should probably also include physical products as well. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And I think, like, my mom's a physical therapist, and I go to the clinic that she used to work at. And when I go there, I'm amazed that 100, because I get to talk with her owner every now and then, 100% of revenue is from insurance based. Like, person comes, they use their insurance. So, like, 95 to 100% of revenue is from insurance reimbursements. And that always struck me as odd in the sense that you own a business and you're leaving 100% of the revenue up to the insurance companies. Um, you know, PT clinics, for the most part, haven't thought to themselves, hey, wait, maybe what happens if they start to screw me? What happens if they start lowering my reimbursement rates? What happens? I have all these customers. I've built a community. I'm local. They know me. They trust me. Could I offer any other services? Could I create a subscription where they pay me $10 a month and I do online stuff for them, or $20 a month and they can use the gym? Or there's endless opportunities, whether they're selling physical products, whether they're selling digital products. So I was kind of astounded when I got into the PT space to find out that very little of that was happening, if any. And the only reason that it started to happen kind of recently is there's companies now that teach you how to, sell cash pay services. But that kind of was born out of a need, not, not kind of people foreshadowing that, oh, wow, I have to do this to be profitable, not I should have done this 10 years ago.
And it's so and again, like again, for anybody, whether they're watching on YouTube or listening on podcasts or whatever, like, again, you and I don't have any business relationship, right? So it's not like we're like peddling each other's stuff here. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Like, I always, whenever we talk about this with like a clinic owner or somebody, I'm always like, imagine if the local grocery store made 100% of their money off of bread. Can we agree that's not a great business? And they're like, no, of course not. Like, the whole reason I go to the grocery store is because I need milk and bread and eggs and like 57 different products. And I'm like, okay, cool. So why are you feeling so comfortable with just one revenue stream, or, with 100% of your revenue coming from one thing? So it is fascinating to me. I think I know the answer to this, but when you were kind of at that phase, like you said, you were surprised by the 100% revenue coming from insurance and all that. Like, what were like some of the common objections people gave you when you said, like, hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe you should diversify? What were like the common objections there?
So I guess it's twofold when it comes to specifically retailing products, in person or scanning QR codes or whatever to kind of make some extra money. There's a lot of objections, but the biggest is it won't make that much of a difference to the bottom line, so it's not worth it. As in, I have people that are making almost no money telling me that making more money, like, it's not enough for them to do it because it's not a huge revenue item, which, yeah, you're never going to sell $100,000, $500,000 worth of products. But I was trying to explain to them that building out ancillary kind of avenues, retailing products in person, kind of building a social following, maybe selling some product online, that all goes hand in hand with, hey, do you want to do cash pay services? Like, if you tell me you're not capable of selling a $20 stretching strap or whatever the case is, but all of a sudden you're going to launch this brand new program and sell $500, $2,000 packages, like I just don't really think that's like it is possible, but um, like retailing products is a great way to say, hey, like let me just dip my feet into something outside of accepting 100% of my revenue through insurance reimbursements. Let me see if I can do this. Let me work with this, and then okay, I got that down. Maybe I can add cash pay services or kind of a hybrid model where people pay for soft wave technology or all these other things that people have started using, and that's kind of that would be my my 2 cents on that.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it aligns with kind of what I hear too, right? It's like, it's so, yeah, it's not going to add much or whatever. And, that I, the thing is, like, I don't try to like change anybody's mind because that's not worth it. Man, people, you got to meet people where they're at, right? But at the same time, when I look at other industries, it's like in any like I just bought some socks from Bombas, right? I do a lot of running, right? And so like, actually, you know what? Let's forget about socks because people listening to that, they're like, well, what does socks have to do with my business? Let's actually talk about my glasses and my contact lenses. So I order my contacts through 1-800 Contacts, and I get my glasses through Warby Parker. When I don't know if you've ever used these companies, but if you buy one thing from them, it is clear that the next thing they really want you to do is buy again. So you bought for 1 quarter or 3 months worth of contacts. Well, about 90 days after you make the purchase, you start to get like a weekly email drip of like, hey, it's 10% off. Hey, don't forget to get more. Don't run out. Boom, boom, boom. They're thinking about lifetime value of the customer like every other e-commerce company. Like the crazy part, Joseph, and I think you would agree with me on this, is that a lot of practice owners treat their business and this industry as if it's the most unique thing in the whole world, when I would argue that 80% of every business is the same. I don't care if you sell socks, contact lenses, milk and bread, or physical therapy. 80% of it's all the same. And 20% of it might be different. Okay, like I'm making this up, but like, the insurance reimbursements may not be a thing for Bombas, right? But there are similarities. Like, for example, here in Virginia where I live, the grocery stores do have to accept WIC, like the people that need assistance on buying grocery. Like it's an extra hurdle you have to jump through, but you got to do it to help those customers. So it is, I don't want to say funny. It's just frustrating sometimes to me that like physical therapy owners are almost like their own worst enemies. Like they would rather spend 87 minutes finding 400 ways it'll go wrong. Whereas like in every other industry, it would not be acceptable to talk this way. It's like, you know, I remember, just as a quick aside, um, the funny thing is so like I try to do a marathon every quarter, which means statistically I do something stupid, and twice every year I got to go see a PT, right? And the funny thing is like the guy I go to see, his office is just across the street from my kid's school. So I'll like drop off the 4 kids, I'll go show up. The funny thing actually is he has no idea what I do for work. Like he has no idea about Strata PT. Like I know I'm supposed to sell him, but I don't, because I actually like to kind of, I don't know, get fixed. But also it's kind of interesting to listen to how non-customers talk. And so the other day I said something to him. I said, hey man, I was like, hey, I'm like worth like $1,200 a year to you, right? He was like, he's an owner operator. He's got probably like 5 clinicians in there. But I see him usually. I was like, hey, I'm worth like $1,200 to you. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, all right, well, it's just math. Like I come in probably twice a year. I know my insurance is paying you like 80 or $90. I'm paying you like a $20 copay. Let's just round it out to like $100 each visit. I know that every time I do something stupid, I'm going to see you 5 or 6 times. I do it twice a year. Napkin math tells me that's about $1,200. And he was like, okay, where are you going with this? And I was like, and I keep bringing up these socks because I go through socks and running shoes a lot. And I was like, dude, I pay like $100 a quarter for socks because I like run so much. And I pay probably $200 a quarter to Nike for shoes every quarter. And both of those companies email me, I don't know, once a week to like give me running tips to whatever. And I clearly they will hope I buy more socks, right? But I've never heard of you. Like, I just come here because you're right across the street from my kid's school. But like the real estate guy I used to sell my house 5 years ago still sends me a magnet every year. Like those other industries market more than you. And like you're telling me often, like, hey, go get this exercise band. Hey, maybe you should get that arch support in your shoes for the next 6 weeks. Like you're telling me to go do this stuff. You're even like telling me it's on Amazon and what to go look for. Why aren't you just giving me like the link, or better yet, let me walk out of here with it? And it's like, like it's like I just spoke in French to the guy or something. It's so wild.
One of the craziest things that I've noticed, and I made a LinkedIn post about this. I think that like there's always a there's always a good, I guess, a good side to every bad situation, and declining reimbursement, I think, is one of the good things I've seen come out of it. Is owner operators have to think like business owners. As you mentioned, you come from the tech kind of e-commerce world like I do. If you're an e-commerce company and you don't have customer win back email sequences or abandoned cart sequences or all this kind of stuff, you're underwater. I mean, that is just like a base level. You have to do these things to remotely remain profitable. It's not even up for debate. So I talk to some of these clinic owners, I find out they send no emails, they make no calls, they send no text messages. They don't do any of these things that most business owners have to do to stay profitable, just because it's kind of been on the gravy train for a long time with reimbursements were so high relative to their expenses, high margins, they don't need to do anything. And yeah, and now they're kind of realizing, hey, like we have to run this like a real business. Margins are tighter, so we have to, we got to get more people in here. We got to get people back. We got to new phone system, better front desk training to answer calls, all of these kind of things. And which is good to see. Like that is a shift that needs to happen for sure. But yeah, like I don't know what the stat is. It's hard to say, but I think probably over 90% of clinics or clinicians nationwide do not do anything product related. As in,
Oh,
there's
I thought it would be higher, but that's cool. Okay,
yeah, so
90%. Wow.
like over 90%. So they don't. They might say, "Hey, go on Amazon," or this, "Hey, you might need this,
Yeah.
you might need this." But as far as like an actual plan in place of even a link, "Hey, I have this link. That's all that you have to do." Or I've even like some people, they went one step further than 90% of clinicians, and they made an Amazon affiliate account. Great. Now you make 3%. That's nothing to write home about, but that's better than zero. And then there's kind of levels, and there's people that have maybe scan a QR code for a specific affiliate account or a brand. Level two, level three is, hey, we want to have products in person, because shipping a lot of these kind of low margin items eats up most of the margin anyways. But we're going to sell in person, which is where you can make most of the money. We're going to post this stuff on social. We're also going to tag brands and kind of work that into it. That's where I see a lot of success, and the people that do it well, the numbers are pretty impressive. Like better than you would think for small clinic.
So actually, that was one of the questions I asked, and maybe you got to take a pass on it. But like, how you were saying that, 100% of your insurance, like seeing 100% of their revenue coming from insurance, for example, was like kind of alarming. Like now that you've been running, and we'll put links to your business in the show notes and all that. But like now that you've been running your business for so long, what does like a healthy revenue mix look like when you integrate products, like percentage wise? Like, are we talking like, I don't even want to throw numbers out there. Like, what does it look like to have like maybe a diversified set of revenue, that's not so reliant on just insurance products? Like when you think about physical products, what does that actually look like? What does it contribute usually when you look at it?
Yeah, so it depends a lot on the type of clinic. So my mentor that kind of got me the PT space is a cash based physical therapist, low volume, high margin, selling packages, no insurance, and obviously for product perspective, they sell way less because they just have way less patients, um, and they're seeing the same patient more often. I guess from a total services thing, I'm just going to talk about a clinic that is doing they have no cash based services. They have absolutely nothing, just 100% insurance, insurance based. If you look at $1 million clinic, $1 million of revenue, all from insurance, and they have maybe 5 to 10 PTs, one location. If they do a good job, which is the key, because we have people that they get all amped up. This is a new initiative. I'm going to sell some products. 4 weeks goes by and they've sold like $100 worth of stuff, and they're like, well, somebody got sick and, I don't want to do it anymore, or whatever the case is. So people that are actually doing a good job, um, it's a very small line item revenue, but high percentage of profit. So like if you do $1 million of revenue, these clinics might only net 50,000 or 75,000, maybe 100,000 max. Obviously, it all depends on how they're run. But so a clinic I can give an example about in California was doing $500 in revenue a week. All right, now that doesn't sound like a lot, but the key perspective, this is in-person stuff. He buys it wholesale and resells it in person. The margins are 100% minimum for every product. So it's $250 a net every week. So when you start to look at numbers like that, you say, like if I would do $1 million clinic, well, $500 a week is, that's only $26,000 a year. Well, what if you're netting 12 or 13,000 and your clinic only netted 75 before that? Like your net profit just went up 15, 20% because it's all the overhead is already accounted for, all of your systems, your employees. This is that's the benefit of additional and ancillary services or even cash pay services is all of the overhead and everything is already expensed. This is just, it goes right to the bottom line. So 10 to 20,000 of additional profit is huge when you only make 70. So don't focus on the million, focus on what you take home. And then, how do we increase that number?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that tracks with what I would have guessed, by the way, that, it's not this probably the misunderstanding around what you just talked about is probably more of a reflection of poor understanding of like profit and loss statements and the idea that all revenue is not equal, like that some revenue is low margin, some revenue is high margin. And the truth is you kind of need a little bit of both to get to where you need to be. I mean, the grocery store analogy hits right here. There is a reason why grocery stores put all the candy and the magazines at the checkout aisle. And hint, it's not to piss off or excite your kids. It's because they already paid the cost to market to you to get you to like drive your car and, walk into their grocery store as opposed to somebody else's. That is a sunk cost. And now everything they do in terms of product placement is about maximizing the average check size or receipt value before you leave there. And it's very similar to here. It's like the local gym. I'm sure it's the same place, same as where you are in Pennsylvania. It's like it doesn't matter whether you go to a big gym or a small gym. Almost all of them now have like a drink cabinet at the front and maybe a couple T-shirts there. And like if you look at it, it's probably well, they're probably not making a lot of money on this, but it is the highest margin stuff that really can move the needle. It can make the difference between a 5% net profit and a 12% net profit. And that's nothing to sneeze at. So in other words, I think I'm just saying the same thing as you, by the way. It's like if you just look at like using your example of, hey, you were making $1 million and this extra work gets you another 50. Okay, I can see where you're coming from. Man, that's a lot of extra work for $1,050,000 as opposed to $1 million. But the true story is not that number. The true story is actually the margin and what the blended higher profit, what the higher profit of that additional 50 really does to your net profits before that. And it's hard to beat that. I mean, by the way, again, I keep bringing it back to this point. Like you and I see the world the same way. It's interesting that like a lot of business owners don't yet understand that. So
Yeah, when I got into the physical therapy space, it's like I've been importing products from China, India, country all over the world. That's kind of how I got my start. I got a couple older brothers that dropped out of college and coached me up on e-commerce, and that's where I learned all my stuff. But like when I got in the physical therapy space, my assumption would be that the market, as far as what clinicians were paying for products and that whole side of things would be pretty. I don't want to say fair is the wrong word, but like if you go to Amazon or Walmart, like things are very competitive. Like if in the consumer space, there's so many different brands, and like price is how much a business can make. Price is usually you don't really see many companies getting away with multiple 100% markups for a commodity. Like that's just not really a thing. The physical therapy space, however, which is why I got into it, I realized that it was not the case, and there were just like the whole pricing model for how clinicians get products, what they pay for products, the relationship between brands and distributors, and all that kind of stuff is why I got it in the first place. The retail was kind of, I learned, I kind of came up with that idea after a couple months in, um, and how it all kind of ties together because you can't retail a product to a patient for more than, like, if they go check on Amazon for, I will use a brand name because I got good counsel 6 months ago to never use any of these companies' names. A legacy brand is my term. When you use a legacy brand and you sell to that patient, selling it to them for more than they can get it for the exact same thing on Amazon or their website, whatever, kind of creates a distrust between, the patient goes home, and even though they got it right then and there, they saved a little bit of time, so they might pay a little bit of a premium. Paying 40-50% extra, they're probably not going to be too happy about it. So clinicians are like, why would I, rightfully so, why would I risk this patient relationship, which is where most of the money is coming from, sell them something small and make a couple dollars. What I realize is, like, the brand has to guarantee, which is what I do to clinicians, that your patient will never find ever this product below the price point that we promise you that you can sell it at. And there's actually a ton, as you probably know, in the business world, a lot of businesses are just very poorly run. A lot of advertising costs, overhead heavy, and as a clinician, when you order from a legacy brand or whatever the case is, all of those costs get passed on to you at some point. All the HR departments, and if they get bought up by private equity, now they have debt payments, and they kind of have to fuel and pay for that, the carrying costs. Like, all that stuff gets factored in. And as you know, most of these products are very cheap to get. There's nothing necessarily special about exercise balls. Yes, there's different materials and different ways to make them from different countries. I get all that, resistance bands and stuff. But my goal was, could I just go direct to clinics and like, use the clinicians as the advertising agents, give all of the money that would go to advertisers to clinicians, and try and build kind of like a grassroots company, more or less, instead of dumping 20-30% of net revenue to Facebook and Google like most e-commerce companies do, and which is what I'm accustomed to. um, Slower growth, but you have way more margin to actually give clinicians money so that they can then resell and make a hefty profit, I guess you'd say.
And again, by the way, like I can't keep saying like you're preaching to the choir, man, because this to me like seems like a no brainer. It's just it's wild to me. Um, I sometimes I kick around this idea. So I got enough on my plate right now, but one of the ideas I always sort of kick around every once in a while is like this idea that maybe what this industry needs at some point is like a modern day business school. Where like it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's not like Silicon Valley where you're trying to like innovate and create something new. It's kind of like here's the here's the like 3-day crash course on your street MBA to run your business. And not everybody's gonna like stick through and complete it, but like for the few at the end that really do like embrace it and start to think like, oh, okay, all revenue's not the same. Okay, margins matter. Like selling them an extra, I'm making this up, selling them that Gatorade in the waiting room while they're hanging for a minute may not seem like a lot for $3, but it's like 100% margin. That adds up really, really fast. I always wonder. I always maybe this is just more of a ramble than a question, but if more business owners in the physical therapy world or OT, I mean, this applies to PT, OT, speech, everything, right? If more of them just truly looked at their business as a business, uh, I think they'd be like nodding in agreement with almost everything that we're talking about here. But yet, it's almost become fashionable to blame the boogeyman. Like the boogeyman caused all the problems. It's the reimbursement rate cuts. It's those employees that always want raises. It's whatever, right? And it's like, there almost should be like a new rule. You can't complain about any of those things unless you can show a diversified revenue stream, because that's the work that people should be doing right off the bat. Like in the tech world, if you were to pick up the phone right now and somehow get like anybody on the management team at Bombas on the phone, and he said, "Hey, what are the top 3 or 4 metrics that matter?" I can almost guarantee you they would say something like it's cost to acquire a customer, it's lifetime value, it's churn, it's I could go like they know it right off the bat. And I bet you the most sophisticated people right now in the PT world are probably thinking, yeah, it's about patients and visits. It's like, okay, okay, but what else? Um,
The interesting thing about the physical therapy business as a whole, as in like if I'm an e-commerce company or just a standard business, the customer acquisition cost, as you know, for most e-commerce companies, whether they're private equity funded or not, they operate at a loss. As in the first purchase, most of the time, the company is losing money to acquire that customer. If it's a consumable like Bombas, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But my guess would be Bombas might lose money or break even or barely profitable on that first order. But they know what the lifetime value is. They know Paul is going to keep coming back and ordering a crap load of stocks, which is where they make all their money. For physical therapy, a lot it's sad to say, but a lot of the clinicians, their customer acquisition cost is zero. They run no ads. They have yeah, they build a pipeline out of relationships with doctors or they're in the community, whatever the case is, and they might spend a little bit on Google ads, but their customer acquisition cost is pretty much zero. And to have like it's astounding to me that like there's all these different angles, but if you're like a DPT student and you're looking at who do I want to go work for, whatever the case is, one of the most important things you can ask is first look at reimbursement rates, which I kind of tagged you guys the other day. Like, what state is actually paying the most, and do the math there because that directly correlates how much you can make. But talk with an owner and say, do you have any cash pay, hybrid, any types of programs or services I can make more money? As in, I sell this, I can get a percentage. I can do this, I can get a percentage. And a lot of like some clinic owners that I've spoken with, they have a terrible website, no SEO, no Google ads, no Facebook ads, no cash pay services, no products, no nothing. And they're talking to me about low margins and their PTs want more money. I'm like, yeah, your employees should want more money because you're running a horrible operation and you can't pay them anymore because you're not doing a good job. And they're like, wow, they're trying to take from me. I'm like, no, they want opportunities. Offer them, talk to Softwave, talk like I don't know, all these different or like gate analysis or products, this and that. And say, hey, I want to work with you. I don't make a lot of money as the owner, but we're going to bring in these new services. If you book X, Y, and Z or do whatever, I will share in the revenue with you. We all make more money. But some of them won't even go that far. They'll say, yeah, they keep trying to take more from me. I'm like, they're gonna leave for clinics that are better run. As in, yes, there is kind of a shortage, but the clinicians are going to better, well-run clinics that have cash pay services, products, whatever, where there's actually kind of room for more growth because the margins are there.
well, yeah, I don't disagree. By the way, I think a lot of practice owners would probably benefit by just maybe even niching down. It's like I think a lot of the most when I think about the difference between a successful and growing practice and the opposite, um, people want to think it's all about like, oh well, they did this deal with that doctor. That's why they get these referrals, or there's almost always like some conspiracy theory slash excuse. But really, what it comes down to is I think the best run ones know exactly who they serve, and more importantly, who they don't. Um, so, like for example, there is a local here in Virginia, like right across from my parents. My parents are a little bit older, and so they live near. They don't live in one of those 55 and up communities, but they live near one. And whoa, what do you imagine is like the PT practice? Like, what is the marketing angle of the PT practice? It just happens to be outside you know, that neighborhood in the first shopping center. Well, it is a um, uh, PT practice specifically aimed at 55 and up. It's got like the right oak. It's got the right this, that, the other. Like as a 44-year-old, I feel awkward walking in there, and that's why I don't go there. Like they don't serve me; they serve that population. And vice versa. Like those people would never go to the guy that I go see for my running stuff. And so I think there is something to be said about this niching. But where I'm going with this, by the way, is that if we, when I think about like the most likely practices to benefit from products and stuff, I suspect it's the ones that have already taken at least that first step towards some sort of niching down. Because the other thing is like, it's not like, and I know you know this, right? But just to kind of make the point to anybody listening, it's like if you stocked up, if my PT, like I said, he's like an owner operator, probably 4 or 5 clinicians. If he stocked up a bunch of like walkers, I'm making this up, but like walkers and stuff like that, he's making zero money off of people like me because it turns out in all the local run clubs, everybody talks about his practice. Like he's the place you go if you want a PR once or twice a year, right? Conversely, if like that place, I can't, like you, I don't want to say their name, right? So like if that place, the 55 and up place, probably doesn't need like the 80-pound resistance bands or like the, the 100-pound medicine balls, because nobody's gonna buy that there, right? And so I know this is like obvious. I mean, you and I know this stuff, and anybody listening is like, yeah, it's obvious. But to your point earlier, this can be obvious. That can be true that it's obvious, but it's also true, like you said, that over 90% of practices sell zero physical products. And we know full well that some of those patients that walked through the door probably bought something that was recommended, and the practice got zero cut of that.
It's astounding to me. The best example I could give, I want to get brand names so bad, but I don't, and I never will. Legacy brands, if there's hundreds of millions of dollars a year of purchases that are made by consumers at the direction of or influenced by one way or another physical therapy clinics across the country. If you think of, oh, go to Amazon, go to Amazon, go to this website, go to this brand, whatever the case is, or even better yet, which is another thing I harp on, products that are used inside physical therapy clinics, brands, specific brands that are used inside physical therapy clinics, get tons of direct to consumer orders just because that's what their therapists use. They like physical therapists are treated, I'm gonna go kind of a rant. Physical therapists are treated as the end customer. As in when you go to Walmart, you buy something, you're paying the highest price because manufacturer made it, then it goes to Walmart, whatever. You're the end customer. There's no advertising benefit. The brand doesn't make any money by having you be their customer other than that transaction, unless you're like a famous influencer, which they're going to work on. Physical therapy is not like that at all, but yet it gets treated that way. As in, hey, maybe if you buy from a distributor, we'll give you some discounts for sure. But then again, that legacy brand can go run an Amazon sale. I just found this out a couple weeks ago. I called my distributor buddy. That brand was running a sale so large that I think it was the same price or less than what the distributor wholesale price was. So PTs are actually paying more than these brands are they got to inventory, they got to sell. There's no kind of loyalty to the physical therapist from a price perspective. And like PT should be rewarded for the say they had like the purchases that are made from their suggestions or kind of from the influence that they have, but no company has ever really done it successfully because all the margin in direct to consumer brands, Facebook, Google ads, hiring these growth agencies, whatever the case is, I don't have any money to pay them. Well, if you just dispense with all of that, most of the products for fitness, if it sells for $20, the landed cost is probably around $2 to $3 most of the time. It depends on what we're getting from where, but $2 to $3. So what happens with the 17? Obviously, company needs to make money. The company's gonna have employees at some point, but like the physical therapist, there's plenty of money to pay them. If you make the physical therapist, hey, I wanna serve this group, this demographic. I want to reward them for advertising my product, for recommending my products, for doing all of these things, and boosting my Amazon listings, whatever the case is. I want to include them in that, and um, it's just I just don't understand how maybe they haven't really been given other choices, but PTs in general are just willingly paying high pricing for products, and it's just the way things have been. And
First of all, we're gonna have to. We should probably do a couple more episodes on this too, because I think the thing is that like there's something to this, and I think what I'll do is like I'll wrap this part by just saying that like everything that you and I are talking about might seem foreign to the PT, OT, the practice owners or whatever. But I would just argue that, like, if for anybody that's like made it this far in the episode, just find me one real world example of a successful business outside of PTOT that does not do what we're talking about, and I will gladly stop talking about this. But the point is, like, your grocery store, your gym, your, even your plumber, everybody is selling some sort of product on top of whatever service they provide. And it's the practice owners, the PTOT, particularly in this case, that are like probably the ones that are spending more time poking holes in these ideas rather than admitting that like it is working. It may not exactly work the same for this industry, but it will work. And to your point earlier, like the patient is spending the money. They are spending the money on stuff. It's just that the practice owners that recommended something are the only ones getting left behind because they're not doing anything about it. So that was probably my worst pep talk of the day, but there's something to it.
Like, I don't think there's ever been a mass study that's done by this, so I can't. I think someone mentioned to me offhand that there was a study done. They didn't send it to me. I couldn't find it, so I don't know if this is true or not. It does make sense, but that the patient, of course, patient outcomes is probably one of the most important things. So we want our patients to get better. That's take care of them on top of making money, like patient outcomes. That's where a lot of PTs get into this. They want to help people. Do you think there's a better chance a patient gets better faster and does their at-home exercise program if you send them home with the products they need to complete the at-home exercise program, or if you send them home and they need exercise ball, they need this, they need that? Okay, we're going to go on Amazon or we're going to go on Walmart, whatever. We're still going to get it in 3 days, but 3 days has gone by and they don't have what they need. And there's a massive shift in humans in general. 3 days, I don't have what I need. It's a lot harder for them to kind of get started when they do get this stuff. Also, they have tons of good stuff on Amazon. Nothing wrong with that, but there's an extra level of confidence that they get. Oh, I got this stuff from my physical therapist. I'm working with them. I got the sheet of stuff I'm supposed to do. I get to go home that day. I get started. There's a different level of commitment. There's a different level of kind of excitement, but that all this stuff, and and they're going to get better faster. Or you send them home, okay, and they come back 2 weeks. Hey, what exercise did you get? Still my Amazon card, didn't get it yet. So you're telling me you didn't do any of the exercises that you were supposed to do with that particular product? Yeah, I'll get on it. Like, it's just like PTs have to do everything they can and then some to kind of force their patients to do exercises sometimes, even though they don't want to, because they know it will help them get better. And this is just another touch point of, you got the products. There's no excuse. I can send an email, I can send you an email in 24 hours. Hey, how'd your first round of exercises go? I can't send you that email if you don't have anything. Oh, sorry, Paul, I don't have any of the products. So I got to wait 4 days and then I'll get back to you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Strata Stories. Strata PT combines your EMR and billing into one automated system to increase revenue and achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate for physical, occupational, and speech therapy clinics. If you'd like to learn more about Strata PT and see how our EMR and billing services work, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo.